The game never stops, and neither do we. Welcome to the SDH Network. We're always around the corner from everywhere. It's Morning Espresso, and it's always brought to you by our friends over at Oglethorpe University, Atlanta's premier undergraduate learning experience and soccer powerhouse. I'm Jason Longshore, and this is your quick shot of soccer news and context to start your day. Today's edition's a little heavy, though, because sometimes the biggest stories aren't tactics or results or qualification scenarios. Sometimes the story is about what the sport keeps failing to confront, and probably the world, but we're talking in the soccer context today. Let's get into it. The lead story is Lisbon, Portugal, Vinícius Júnior, and just the same old shame right now. Soccer gave us another reminder yesterday of how quickly brilliance can be swallowed by ugliness. Real Madrid's 1-0 win over Benfica in the first leg of their Champions League playoff should have been remembered for Vinícius Júnior's quality. It was a goal of just rare ease, and it was outstanding. It's imaginative. The kind of moment that reminds you why we love this sport and why it can feel like art at times. But then it became something else entirely. Vinícius celebrated in front of Benfica supporters, which happens all the time. Tempers flared, which, again, happens all the time. That's fine. All in the context of the match, all fine. Objects were thrown, not fine. That is an issue that needs to be addressed, and I'm sick of the idea that we're going to criticize the player for celebrating the goal and that makes it okay to throw things at the player. No. Things kept escalating. Benfica players confronted Vinícius, and then midfielder Gianluca Prestiani, while covering his mouth with his shirt, said something, and it immediately changed the night. Vinícius sprinted towards the referee to complain. The referee made FIFA's crossed arms X gesture, the protocol introduced in 2024 to signal an allegation of racist abuse. Kylian Mbappé later said to the media that Prestiani called Vinícius a monkey multiple times. Aurelien Tchouameni echoed the allegation. Trent Alexander-Arnold called it a disgrace to football. Prestiani denied the accusation. He said that Vinícius misunderstood what was said. UEFA now will review the referee's report and decide whether disciplinary proceedings follow. But what made Mbappe's response so striking was the clarity of it. He didn't want to mention Prestiani by name. First off, he only talked about what number he wore on his jersey. He said that this is the Champions League and you have to set an example for the children watching at home. And that is an element that is part of this, sadly, is there's video. You can find it. It's not hard to find. People saw it in the stadium of children making monkey gestures towards Vinícius after this happened. After the incident on the field, which the fans did not hear what was said. People are disputing what was said. But there are videos of children making monkey gestures towards Vinícius Júnior after that happened. You do have to think about that. These players, some of them, obviously, think about that. Others don't. Mbappé said that Prestiani doesn't deserve to play in the competition anymore. And then on social media, he put it even more simply. He said, "Keep dancing, Vinny, and please never stop. They'll never tell us what to do or not to do." The fallout has only deepened from the immediacy of what happened on the night. Benfica's official account claimed that Madrid players could not have heard what they said, what they said was heard. They were citing the distance shown in broadcast footage, even though it's very clear in the clip that Benfica posted that the players are close enough to hear what Prestiani said after he put his jersey over his mouth, and the reaction from Vinícius Júnior immediately came. There's other angles that show that they're definitely close enough, and there's multiple players close enough, so that's absurd. Then came Jose Mourinho, who chose criticism over clarity. He wanted to question why Vinícius didn't celebrate like Eusebio, and he framed the allegation as unknowable. He, instead of just leaving it as his player said something and he doesn't know what he said, he knows what his player told him he said, And Vinícius heard something, and he knows what Vinícius told him that he heard, but he doesn't know. Instead of leaving it there, he wanted to try to find blame for this happening and blame Vinícius Júnior. Clarence Seedorf called that a big mistake. Theo Walcott said it was the one night that Mourinho should not have been in front of cameras. Thierry Henry on CBS yesterday said it was, he spoke about the experience and the isolation of these moments, and he said it becomes your word against his word. And Henry pointed to what everybody saw. Prestiani pulled his shirt up over his mouth. Now, there are a lot of players today in all sports who are doing this, so they don't want their lips read. They don't want these things to be picked up by cameras, and sometimes it is trash talk and just trash talk. Sometimes it is more, and this is an issue. And Michael Silvestre, who's part of the FIFA Players Committee, has recognized this issue. He said discussions began immediately about whether players should be punished for deliberately covering their mouths to hide remarks. But look, here's the deal. Vinícius Júnior has lived this too many times already. We've seen it. We've heard it. This is not isolated. It keeps happening to him. It's happened all over Spain. Yes, as we've talked about here on the Morning Espresso, people have been arrested. People's tickets have been canceled. People have been put on ban lists from stadiums. That is progress. It is slowly happening, but it happened to players before Vinícius in Spain as well. It happens to players in other parts of the world as well. But Vinícius Júnior has been the one that it has happened to the most. And I am sick and tired of people complaining about him celebrating a goal in the same way that all other players celebrate goals many times over everywhere in the world, and trying to use that as justification for these things. Trying to use that for justification for looking into the stands and seeing people make monkey gestures at you. There is no justification for any of that. Vini wrote it on social media afterwards. He said, racists are, above all, cowards. If you're going to put your jersey above your mouth to say something to a player in that moment, you are a coward. Whatever you said. And there's been allegations that he said something that wasn't racist, but was homophobic. That doesn't make it any better. If you're going to cover your mouth in that moment, you are a coward. You don't want people to know what you said. You wanted Vinícius Júnior to hear what you said, but he did not want anybody else to hear what he said, to see what he said. That is a problem. I'll tell you what, Kylian Mbappé did not cover his mouth when on the field. He had a lot of things to say about what Prestiani said in the immediate aftermath of this. He didn't cover his mouth. You can go find that clip very easily. You can read lips. You can read transcriptions. It's not hard to find. He didn't cover his mouth. Prestiani did. It's disgusting. It has to stop. It's very hard for UEFA in this case because you're going to have evidence one way or another. The referee didn't hear it. He wasn't close enough. You're going to have one person's word against another person's word. But I think you've got a lot of evidence here that you're going to have to do something. UEFA, FIFA, you have to do something here. The game keeps talking about consequences, but it has to deliver them. The burden of dealing with this cannot keep falling on players, and especially in this case, it can't keep falling on the same player the same way every time. It just can't. It has to stop. Sadly, we're not talking about the game. We're not talking about the great goal that he scored. There were other games that happened in the Champions League. The game does keep going, and we hope that we and the next generations learn from these conversations. That's all we can hope. That's why I do what I do. That's why I think plenty of others do what they do. We're talking about this with the hope that people learn and don't follow these kinds of actions. Let's talk about the rest of the Champions League. Chaos in good and bad ways yesterday. The shock result came in Turkey. Galatasaray, they delivered one of the great European nights in Istanbul. They came back from 2-1 down at halftime to thrash Juventus 5-2. Noah Lang and Gabriel Sara were electric. Juve finished with 10 men. They go back to Turin, and Juve is going to have a historic comeback to get past Galatasaray. The all-French matchup between Monaco and PSG, that was another wild swing. Valérien Balogun, the U.S. men's national team striker, he scored twice inside the opening 20 minutes, including first in the opening minute, 55 seconds, a header. PSG responded, though, like defending champions respond. Désiré Doué came on for the injured Ousmane Dembélé. He scored twice. PSG came back from 2-0 down to win 3-2, and they get the home leg in the second leg of the tie. In Germany, Borussia Dortmund, they handled Atalanta 2-0, goals from Serhou Guirassy and Maximilian Bayer. Today's slate, plenty of intrigue. Inter, they travel north of the Arctic Circle to face Bodo Glimt, one of the surprise stories in this year's edition of the Champions League. Newcastle head to Azerbaijan to face Karabag. Joelinton back in the squad for Newcastle. Atleti visit Club Brugge after a very disappointing weekend result for Atleti. Olympiacos host Bayer Leverkusen. The first legs of these playoffs have delivered drama. Now we'll find out what comes next. Let's bring it back home. Atlanta United, the preseason message has continued to be consistent. Intensity. We had a chance to talk to Steven Alzate and Juan Berrocal yesterday. Steven talked about the physical demands of this preseason, the constant running, the pressing, the transitions. Berrocal emphasized the intensity, the chemistry, the togetherness that has been building. He said the work has been relentless. This is a group that wants to impose itself, not ease into the season. They do have a challenge because they only had 3 preseason games, and they're still building the tactical identity, but the character of this team, I thought it was pretty clear in the things that Alzate and Berrocal said about what they are intending to be. They have added an experienced piece as well to fit into this, Fafa Picault, veteran winger with more than 250 MLS appearances. He's got pace, he's direct, he's a very productive player, even at a little bit of an older age. He has delivered over his last couple of seasons in a pretty big way. The Haitian international trying to be part of the World Cup squad this summer. He's a proven wide threat. He is a professional presence. He's a great fit in the locker room. He's somebody that Chris Henderson has known for a long, long time. He's somebody that Henderson believes in, and he's somebody that is a very known quantity here. Atlanta's 10th season, it's here. High press, high standards, opening day ahead on Saturday. Go check out soccerdownhere.net for those updates on the training ground notebook from yesterday and a little more backstory if you don't know about Fafa Picault's story. Go check those out, soccerdownhere.net. U.S. women's national team, Emma Hayes, has named her 26-player roster for the SheBelieves Cup. The expanded roster gives you flexibility over 3 matches in quick succession. The U.S. will open against Argentina on March 1st in Nashville, then Canada in Columbus, then Colombia in Harrison, New Jersey. This roster reflects both continuity and rotation. You've got 8 Olympic gold medalists from 2024 included in the roster, only 13 players returning from last year's SheBelieves squad. Notably, there's 0 uncapped players on this roster. It's the first time since the 2025 SheBelieves Cup tournament that's the case. Lindsay Heaps, Rose Lavelle, Emily Sonnet, that headlines the veteran core. Younger names like Jordan Bugg, Lily Ioannis, Ali Sentner, they remain central to the next generation. It's not just a friendly tournament. Hayes is treating this like a serious competitive step for this group. Quick run through the North American and CONCACAF headlines. LAFC, they ran riot last night in Honduras. They beat Real España 6-1. It was 4-0 inside of 24 minutes. Denny Boanga scored twice early. He completed his hat trick later. Statement win for LAFC. Nashville, good 2-0 win over Atletico Ottawa. Wubens Pacius, he scored the winner in his Nashville debut. Christian Espinoza came off the bench, assisted on Sam Surridge's stoppage time goal that gives them a bigger cushion coming back to Tennessee for the second leg. One of the more intriguing matchups this round is tonight. Cartaginés is versus Vancouver. Cartaginés facing Canadian opposition for the first time in their history in CONCACAF. Vancouver, they bring continental know-how, plus they bring Thomas Müller, plus they bring serious expectations in 2026. The LA Galaxy, they open in Panama against Sporting San Miguelito. They're trying to kickstart a new era without Ricky Puig. While he's out injured again, they're leaning on Joao Klaus. They're leaning on the returnees, Gabriel Peck, Joseph Paintsil, Marco Reus. Going to be interesting there. Cincinnati gets their Concacaf Champions Cup run started as well. We'll be talking about that tomorrow. A little bit of early scouting for Saturday. Charlotte FC, their facility has been chosen as Scotland's World Cup base for 2026. It's another reminder of how MLS infrastructure is central to the World Cup this summer. Colorado Rapids, they have brought Miguel Navarro back to MLS on loan. Toronto, they have reunited with Raheem Edwards. And Toronto also added Colombian youth forward Emilio Aristabal on a U22 loan deal. His father, legendary player in that glory days of the 90s. It's busy days across the continent, and MLS just a few days away from the opener. The refill. Headlines from around the world. Juventus defender Lloyd Kelly, he said he received racist abuse on social media after the loss to Galatasaray, including a message telling him to go back to the zoo. Lloyd Kelly posted that person's message on his social media. I'm glad he showed that idiot for who he is. And it's another reminder that what happened to Vinícius Júnior is not isolated, and it's another reminder that social media sites are going to need to deal with these things better as well. We'll see what kind of fallout we get on this one. Mexico, they've set their final World Cup warm-up schedule. They're going to play Ghana, Australia, and Serbia before opening the tournament June 11th at the Estadio Azteca. Marseille, the chaos continues. Sporting director Mehdi Benatia, he returned 2 days after resigning. The club scrambles for stability amid protests. It's another turbulent season. Benatia was very close to Roberto De Zerbi and left, and now he's back, and who knows what any of that means at Marseille. In Asia, former champions Ulsan are out of the Asian Champions League elite. They failed to find a goal against Shanghai Port. Al-Sadd, they were thrashed 4-1 by Al-Ittihad, but they still survived into the knockout rounds. They will play Al-Hilal next. Lazio, they have unveiled a massive 480 million euro vision for redeveloping the Stadio Flaminio, targeting a new home by 2032 and potentially hosting matches in the Euros in 2032. It's not a brand new stadium. It is a refurbishment of the existing stadium. It's very hard to build brand new stadiums in Italy, especially in Rome. It maybe will get through because it is a renovation as opposed to a brand new build. Sevilla manager Matias Almeida, he was hit with a 7-match suspension after his red card against Alaves. Sevilla are planning to appeal. There were all kinds of different things cited to get that suspension up to 7 games. And Jesse Lingard, he has been linked with a move to Brazil, potentially joining Remo after leaving FC Seoul earlier this year. On SDH AM this morning, if you miss it live, you can go back and check it out on demand on YouTube, on Twitch. You can listen to the podcast edition as well. You will hear from our old friend Jessica Charman, Apple TV play-by-play commentator. You will hear from our old friend Will Pelagic, the Charlotte FC radio play-by-play commentator. You'll also get all your catch-up on CONCACAF, MLS, everything else around the globe with John Nelson, SDH AM 905 every single weekday. And on Wednesdays, he double dips and he comes back at noon with the Red Clay Soccer Report. Today, you will hear from coaches from all over the state talking about the first full week of the high school season last week. Kelly Bowler from Johns Creek will come back to reflect on Creek Cup 2026. We had a blast calling all of those games. We will have a blast today. We will be at Brookwood High School. St. Pius at Brookwood. The girls kick off at 5:30. The boys kick off at 7:30. We'll have radio calls for both of those. You can listen to it. soccerdownhere.net/listen. Look, some mornings, the headlines, they feel heavier than the games themselves. This edition began with Vinícius Júnior once again forced into this exhausting position of responding to something that no person should have to endure. Soccer, the sport, will talk about protocols, talk about investigations, we'll talk about consequences. Now it has to deliver those. We can't keep talking. There has to be delivering on these consequences. Brilliance deserves to be celebrated. It doesn't deserve to be sullied by the ugliness that is chasing behind it. And the burden of this can't keep falling on the same players the same way every single time. It just can't. It's got to change, and we've got to keep talking about it until it does. That's Morning Espresso for February 18th. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Don't forget, high school action on the network tonight. soccerdownhere.net/listen. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Morning Espresso, hopefully with some lighter topics and a little more fun. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of the SDH network. We'll be talking soon.